Yo, what is up guys? It is Samool back again with another Epic 7 video for you guys today. And today we're going to be talking about a topic that a lot of newer players have been asking me, and that is going to be what is the best free-to-play Wyvern team for beginners and new players alike. Now here I'm going to tell you what units you should be using, the stat guidelines you should aim for, and why these units are so good. But before we get started with this video though guys, if you guys aren't already following me on Instagram, make sure you guys follow me there, because once we do hit 20k subscribers on YouTube, we will be doing a giveaway again. If you guys want to participate in the giveaway, all you guys have to do is follow me on Instagram. It takes 1 second, and then when I do upload the post, which I'll also make a video on YouTube, all you guys have to do is like that post as well, and you guys are automatically entered into the draw. So yeah, that being said, what is the best team? So the best team is actually the team you see on your screen here: Angelica, Sigrid, Furious, and Mui. Now before we get started though, like Angelica guys, I know a lot of people say that Angelic Montmorency is a better option because of the fact that you can use her in a lot more areas of content, which is true, but Angelica, keep in mind, is a lot easier to build for newer players. Now since we do have the selector coming out, if you guys do plan to choose Tamarin from the selector, then you guys might want to use Angelic Montmorency instead of Angelica. They do have very similar stat guidelines though and artifact choices. Just swap out Angelica for Angelic Montmorency if that is your decision. But yeah, these 4 units, very easily accessible, right? All of them are very easy to get, besides I guess one of them, which we'll talk about. Now the first 2 we're going to talk about is Angelica and Furious. These 2 units are from the connection, so all you have to do is do the quest for Angelica and Furious here, and you'll get these units for free. And like I said, if you want to use Montmorency and Angelic Montmorency instead of Angelica, you can use Montmorency from the connections as well. Now for Sigrid, so Sigrid is from the mailbox. Click the mailbox on the top right here, go to ongoing events and click Hunt Expert Challenge, and you'll be able to choose between Sigrid, Vivian, and Sirmia. Now you'll be able to get all these units eventually. Just make sure you choose Sigrid first, because until you finish the quest line for the unit you choose, you will not be able to switch between units. So please pick Sigrid first. So those 3 units, easy to get. You get them for free just by playing the game. The last unit, Mui, he is the hardest to get of these 4 units, which is funny because he is the lowest grade of the unit. He's a base 3-star. But the way you get him is from summoning on banners. And honestly, right now we have that DN banner going on. So if you're watching this video and you guys don't have DN and you guys are pulling for her, if you get Mui, you should be very happy because he's very good in Wyvern. Otherwise, you can get him from other banners or even from the Covenant summons that you do every day. But yeah, if you guys get unlucky, you guys don't get Mui, it's fine. There is another unit from connections you can use instead, and that is going to be Alexa. Whether you have her specialty changed or not, she works very well in Wyvern. Obviously, if she's specialty changed, she'll be a little bit better, but without her specialty change, she's still extremely powerful and a good replacement for Mui until you get him. So that being said, how do you guys actually want to build these units? So we're going to talk about Angelica first. Angelica is the tank of the Wyvern team. The tank is the most important unit in the Wyvern team, because if your tank dies, your run is automatically over 90% of the time. Now, like I said, if you guys are using Angelic Montmorency instead, the stat guidelines are pretty similar. Just keep in mind you'll need a little bit better gear on Angelic Montmorency because her base stats are a little lower, and because Angelic Montmorency doesn't have that exclusive equipment to boost her stats. So yeah, Angelica guys, basically just swap her on that free HP set that you get from the check-in event, right? It should be level 75 HP set, I think. Maybe it's 65, right? But you just slap all those pieces on, and it's really easy to actually have her tank Wyvern if you're running her in this team. Just plus 15 your free HP set gear, and you should be good to go for the most part. Now if you want stat specifics, aim for like 140 speed, it should be okay, and everything else into HP and defense doesn't really matter too much. Just make sure HP is at least over 16,000 and she should be good to go. Now for artifact, run her on Prophetic Candlestick, because you're going to see that it is a % chance to reduce cooldowns by 1 turn at the moment that she's attacked. And for Wyvern 13 guys, the boss will hit you 3 times every single time it takes a turn, so you have 3 chances to proc this, and you're going to see that Angelica and Angelic Montmorency alike have very low cooldowns, so you'll see that most of the time they will never actually have to S1, they'll just keep healing over and over. So yeah, for exclusive equipment, which Angelica has, I definitely recommend the one that heals more on her S3. The one on her S1 doesn't really help much in Wyvern because you're not really S1ing at all, and the Dispel is good in other areas of content, but for the most part you don't really need this because Wyvern has no debuffs on your team. So that's the way you want to build your Angelica guys. Very important. Make sure you 6-star as well. You definitely need to 6-star your tank for Wyvern because that just gives them a lot more bulk, because it'll raise their base stats, which in turn will make your gear, like this HP % from this necklace will scale even more. Now let's talk about the 3 DPS. So first, let's just talk about the stats that I recommend for these DPS units, because they all share a very common baseline. First off, you want them to be around like 140-ish speed, 150-ish speed, with Furious being your fastest. Now the reason you want Furious to be your fastest is because he is your defense breaker. So if he goes before your other damage dealers, he will make your damage dealers all do more damage, and he also has a crit chance buff for your team. And if he goes before all of your other damage dealing units, your damage dealing units will all have this crit chance buff for the entire fight, lowering the gear requirements of your team immensely. So make sure Furious is the fastest and Sigrid and Mew are the second or third fastest. It doesn't really matter what order Sigrid and Mew are in, just make sure Furious is the fastest. That being said, you also want 65% effectiveness on these units because of the fact that they all have debuffs, and debuffs are very important on Wyvern, right? You need to have 2 debuffs at least on the boss to make sure that the boss only targets Angelica. Otherwise, it will just attack randomly, which is very, very bad. Your units will get one shot, right? Now you can aim for 3 debuffs as well. It'll lower the damage that the boss does, but that's a nice bonus, right? So 65% effectiveness on your units with that speed benchmark, and you should be good to go. Also aim for 35% crit chance in all your units, and the reason is because, you know, 15% you're getting for free by being an ice unit versus a fire unit, which is Wyvern, and also you're getting 50% from Furious's crit chance buff, and if he's the fastest on your team, he will have this up on your team permanently. So very easy to build. Everything else, guys, just goes into damage, preferring crit damage over attack, and you definitely want to make sure that Sigrid is having your best damage dealing gear, with Mewy having your second best, and Furious having probably your worst because he doesn't really do that much damage anyway. So that's pretty much how you want to aim for the stats. Now let's talk about the units in more specifics. So for Sigrid, guys, you know, very powerful unit. You can just run her on that free attack set that you get. I think it's the level 75 one. Very powerful on her. If you put that on her, she'll be pretty much good to go. Just make sure, you know, you have like some effectiveness from like your ring. You can have run an effectiveness main stat ring and should be good to go. But just make sure you add 65% effectiveness because she has a lot of debuffs. You can see her S1, 2 debuffs, S2, 2 debuffs, up to 4 if the boss is less than 50%, and her S3 does a lot of damage with no debuffs, but you know, this scales with more debuffs. So that's why you want your team to have a lot of debuffs, because the more debuffs you land on the boss, even if it's overkill, you're actually buffing Sigrid's S3 damage by a lot. For Artifact Runner on Daydream Joker, you can pretty much run this on every single DPS and PvE in the game, and it's very good. This also scales with crit damage, which is why I said you want to prioritize crit damage over attack if you can. Now for exclusive equipment, guys, definitely run her on the increased severed chance of bleeding, because like I said, you know, if you guys are missing out on debuffs on the boss, what ends up happening is the boss might not have 2 debuffs and it'll randomly snipe your units, ending your run. So you definitely want to increase the probability of your debuffs landing so your runs become more consistent. For skill enhances, definitely max everything. She is your main damage dealer, so you definitely want all the damage, and the fact that she has so many debuffs, you want that effect chance to go up. And when you do eventually go to late game and you start one-shotting Wyvern, you're going to want to max her out anyways. For stars, you also are going to want to eventually 6-star Sigrid, but for the most part, you can keep her at 5 stars for the early game. Definitely prioritize Angelica first, and then after that, if you want to speed up your runs, you definitely want to 6-star your Sigrid. Now for Furious, guys. So Furious, very low what's it called, budget unit. Like, you don't really need to invest too much into it. All you need is speed and 65% effectiveness, and then any damage is a bonus. Now for skill enhances, guys, you know, definitely want to get the 100% chance on your S3. Also want that to turn cooldown on your S2. That makes it so that you can permanently keep this up on your team. And the effect chance on your S1 is nice if you can, but you definitely don't have to do it because it gets very expensive Mulagora wise. For Artifact, Song of Stars is by far the best on him, but it is a 5-star artifact. If you don't have it, you can run Ranin's Memorandum, which is a 3-star artifact to increase his speed. You can also run Infinity Basket, or you can also even run Daydream Joker. Now, he also recently got an exclusive equipment, which makes him even better in Wyvern when he was already very powerful. Definitely run the one for the extra chance to, you know, decrease hit chance when you use your S3. That'll make it so that your S3 can instantly land 2 debuffs right away, making it so that you don't actually need any other debuffs if you get really unlucky. So very, very powerful. Definitely recommend that one over the S1 one because, you know, you're going to be using your S3 more so than your S1 by a long shot. I think you'll be only S1ing in between your S3 like twice. So if you add that together, it's 50%, whereas you're getting a 75% chance from your S3 to land another debuff. I know that's not how the math works though, guys, don't worry, but I'm just saying it is way more consistent to get the S3 exclusive equipment. Now for Mui, guys, your second damage dealer. Oh, also, by the way, your Furious can run your adventure path gear. I think you get like a speed set gear or whatever, and you can just run him on that because that gear is not that great. But just make sure he is the fastest with 65% effectiveness. Now for Mui, guys, you are going to want to run him on your second best gear. Probably whatever gear that you farmed from Wyvern 11 or 12 that was ended up being okay, you can put on him. For Mui, same thing, like I said, 65% effectiveness, fast enough where he's not faster than Furious, but still, you know, like 150-ish speed, 140-ish speed. And then everything else into damage. Obviously, you want Sigurd to hold the majority of your best gear. But for Artifact, Daydream Joker, very, very good. And for skill enhances, you're going to want to run him on plus 15. Because since he is a 3-star unit, guys, he actually will not cost you any Molagora to enhance. So eventually, you'll want to max all of this. In the beginning, though, just aim for the effect chance on his S3 up to plus 4, right? And also the effect chance on his S1 up to plus 4, and then you should be good to go. After that, you know, it's a bonus. It's really up to you, but I will definitely recommend it because, you know, catalysts aren't that hard to farm later on into the game. Early game, it might feel hard, but, you know, eventually you do want to max them out so your runs are faster. Now, Furious and Mui, they're mostly your support units, right? Furious is your defense breaker, and Mui is your debuffer. So Sigurd will be doing the majority of your damage. For that reason, you can keep Furious and Mui at 5 stars. You'll see like mine are at 5 stars. You don't really need to buff them up because they're not going to be doing even nearly close to any damage compared to Sigurd. So Sigurd, you know, good 6-star option. Angelica is a must-have at 6 stars. And then after that, you know, it's really up to you. But I definitely would recommend against 6-starring Furious and Mui because I think it's a waste of resources. So that's pretty much it for the gear and what you guys should be using these units for and how to build them. Now let's see this team in action, see why they're so good. So here we go, guys. This is my Wyvern team. I don't really use this, by the way. You're gonna see like not really optimized. Your team should work better than mine, honestly, because you know I just kind of put random gear and left some pieces off to kind of mimic the stats you guys are running. My Sigurd's even missing some effectiveness, which will hurt a lot because Sigurd does have a lot of debuffs. So your run should go better than mine. But yeah, this team, very, very good, very consistent. The only way you fail is if you get really unlucky and your debuffs don't land. But for the most part, you know, it should be pretty easy to actually, you know, clear this boss. I think this is the most stable team in the early game. Might not be the fastest, but for beginners, as long as you are running this team, you should be able to clear. You know, even if you're not at 100% win rate and it's not the fastest, keep in mind, you know, your first team for Wyvern doesn't have to be the fastest. You just want to be able to keep like at least like a 40% win rate and farm gear from this boss. So you're gonna see right away, you know, Mui, very powerful. He's CR pushing my team constantly. The boss did resist the decreased attack buff from his S2, which makes him very good. But yeah, very powerful unit because he lowers the speed requirement on your team. And Furious will also, you know, crit chance on my team for, you know, increases the crit chance on my team, obviously. And then also, you know, Sigurd landing that bleed. So even though my defense break did not land and my Mui's S2 decreased attack didn't land, you're going to see here that because this team has so many debuffs that, you know, they're able to land some other debuffs as well and make this run very stable, right? Other teams, if you run like Alexa or even like SSB sometimes, what happens if you miss your defense break or something, your run just fails because the boss doesn't have enough debuffs to focus your Angelica. This team is very safe, and because you're running Sigrid, right, she will be doing a lot of damage, especially if you're stacking a lot of debuffs. You're going to see that on her S3 turn, she will do crazy amounts of damage. So we already have 5 debuffs on the boss here. That's actually insane. And like I said, since I am running Mui, whenever Angelica gets hit here, you're going to see my entire team gets CR pushed. So the boss has 4 debuffs, not anything too crazy. They should do decent damage. Obviously, you're not going to do as much as mine did because mine's on rage set, but you're going to see that pretty decent, right? Now, in the start of the game, you might not be able to clear before the barrier, which is fine. As long as you can kill the boss, it is okay. Just keep in mind later on as you start farming Wyvern 13 more, and as you start getting better gear for your team, you'll be able to actually, you know, kill the boss before the barrier and actually save a lot of time on your runs. The only reason I wasn't able to kill before barrier here was because I missed my first defense break, but it should be okay anyways. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my Wyvern run, guys. Definitely all these units super OP for Wyvern, right? You know, Angelica, easiest to build tank. We have Furious, crit chance buff, defense break, super OP with his debuffs as well. Mui's really OP with that CR push on his S2 and that counter attack as well to decrease attack. And Sigrid, tons of debuffs and tons of damage. That being said, I hope this video helps you out, guys, and I'll see you guys next video. Peace.